I was just a shell. I had no spirit. I was just very empty and it was dark. I felt like I've lived so many different lives since then. I was living in a shelter, age 17, pregnant. You're not worthy enough. You're not good enough. You're undeserving. We don't love you. Like all these things just started going through my head.
So many of the best stories I hear, there's so many similarities in sort of the bone structure of trauma, of all these past scar tissue moments. It's one that I've heard so many times.
Human nature of it's so relatable.
I don't regret anything. Like, I feel like that was meant for it to happen, for me to figure it out.
Somehow I think that all those experiences is what's created all this freedom in you. This freedom to go out and fully be who you're meant to be. And when you get beneath the surface, she's been one of these unique women that's fully leveraged her pain. She's fully tapped into her story. Kayla's also doing some amazing things that are quite rare. They're one-on-one type stuff. Kayla's on probably one of the most popular TV shows ever on Netflix, selling the OC. But beyond that, the beauty of what I see in Kayla is she's transforming the world, inspiring millions of people, sharing her story and using her voice to fight back against the evil that I think is destroying society. It's people like Kayla that are out there fighting, using their voice, stepping in the light.
Now that I have that experience, God really softened my heart because it was hard for so long. Now it's like I want to bring as much light as I can to everybody.
Many of you guys don't need this introduction. I'll give you a quick one though. This is Kayla Cardona, a good friend of mine who lives down in the OC right next to your boy here in the winter. So I've developed a great relationship with Kayla. I'm very fond of her. Our hearts have connected. I've heard her story personally, and it was a no-brainer that with Man on a Mission, our podcast back here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that we were going to have Kayla on. So I'm excited to bring her story to the masses, or to our audience at the very least. But our show's growing. It's growing, baby.
Bit by bit.
Yeah. So anyway, but Kayla's a gift. This is a woman that is on a mission, no doubt, incredibly powerful woman. And I always try to ask when I get to the core of a person, like, where's your real value? Like, I'm just always trying to weed that out in people. Like, what's the value proposition you bring? And it was clear with Kayla that there was a lot of power that was coming out of this woman. And when you get beneath the surface, she's been one of these unique women that's fully leveraged her pain. She's fully tapped into her story. There's so many lessons in her scar tissue that has gotten her to where she's at. And I think it's so much power there. Naturally, with Man on a Mission, we seem to go there. And but Kayla's also doing some amazing things in real time now that are quite rare. They're one-on-one type stuff. Kayla's on probably one of the most popular TV shows ever on Netflix, selling the OC. It was a show that came after the success of selling Sunset. A lot of people have seen that. One of the most expensive properties in the world. I mean, this is a sexy show with a ton of drama, a lot of crazy motherfuckers on that show, women that are nuts, a lot of drama. So we got to get into all that for sure. But beyond that, the beauty of what I see in Kayla is she's transforming the world. She's inspiring millions of people. I think her impact on women particularly is going to be insanely profound. She's doing it. And I know she has a lot more to do there. And she's entering some of the big arenas, the big stages of the world, sharing her story and using her voice to try to transform, to fight back against the evil that I think is destroying society. It's people like Kayla that are out there fighting, using their voice, stepping in the light. So this will be a gift to get this interview, this story on our podcast, Man on a Mission. But I know, Kayla, you're on a mission. So with all that being said, welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome,
Thank you so
Kayla.
much for having me. That intro, wow, my goodness. Definitely save that for later.
You're amazing, Kayla, for sure. So when I first started hanging out with you, it was really easy to get to the core of you. Like you have a vibrancy and a frequency that radiates like real raw value. And some of the first questions I started asking you was clear that you had a story, like a real profound story. Your pride and joy is your son, Jordan. Is he 19 now?
17.
Okay. I don't know why I'm skipping 2 years. 17 years old. Okay.
Everyone thinks he's like in his 20s. And when I wear no makeup, I look like I'm 12. So it's just like.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Imagine her having a 17-year-old.
Man.
First of all.
I know. I can't believe I have a 17-year-old. It's crazy.
This must be surreal.
Yeah. Well, it's a testimony to you because I met him. He's a good kid. I saw him at Aspire in Atlanta when you spoke on stage, and I was there, and it was just cool to kind of see what you love and your family and you're sort of the backdrop of your people. I've gotten to know your people that are behind the scenes of you, and these are good people, like down to earth, real humans. I think sometimes you see things like selling the OC and you'll have a perception that is not real to who the person is. You know, there's a lot of drama on there, a lot of animation, a lot of, what sells, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't represented in who I met. And the place she took me right away, right out of the gates was to the 17-year-old Kayla Cardona. And I think I'd love to just start there, get this audience aware of the dragons that you've had to slay in your life, the unique obstacles and the hardships, like the pain, all that, because you have a great story, Kayla.
No, thank you. When you say it that way, it's like, I sometimes think about how I want to go back and just hold that little girl again and just tell her that everything's going to be just fine. Because it was just such a time in my life where I was just a shell. I had no spirit. I was just very empty and it was dark, and it's just like, wow, I felt like I've lived so many different lives since then. It's pretty incredible, the journey. But starting at 17, yeah, I mean, I had I won't go super deep into it, but I had a really tough childhood growing up. 2 different households, very, very polar opposite. And from a very young age, I was living in survival mode and always trying to protect my sister. She's only 10 months older than me, but I was always the protector. And I felt like I had the responsibility of even my own mother, that her emotions were all over the place. She would do drugs and would drink all the time. And I just, I would fight with her against it. And I just felt so angry at such a young age. And, at the age of 17 is where, it was in high school. And I remember I started kind of seeing more freedom, and I started, in the sense of, I grew up in a very, very strict household. I was always grounded for every single reason. I didn't do anything. I had no experience with anything. And at 17, people actually don't know this, TMI for anyone, but it was the first time I lost my virginity, actually, is when I got pregnant at 17. So it's like all it takes is one time.
Wow.
So it wasn't just, it wasn't like it just happened. Like it just, my first time, and then that happened. It's just crazy how because I just shared that with my son the other day, and he had no idea. I was like, I never told you that? Oh yeah, you were my first time. Not planned. So, I started kind of going into my own, expressing myself, started, getting into dancing and started teaching dancing and all the things. And then I got pregnant at 17, and my parents gave me an ultimatum, and they basically said, you have to find an adoption family, because having an abortion was not an option. And so I did. I found an adoption family, and it was a person that I knew from high school. And, it just, something very empowering came over me at 7 months pregnant. I basically had the guts to come up to my parents and tell them, I'm keeping my son. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had no plan. You
changed your mind.
Yeah. Well, basically, because it was at the time I didn't know what it was, because I didn't believe in God at the time. I had a lot of questions about him, and it was very dark for me. So now what I know now, it was God leading me the entire way. And so I just knew I had to keep him. And so I told my parents. So that's what they basically, just took me to the shelter, and they signed me off, and I was living in a shelter, age 17, pregnant.
Wow.
And it was, again, it was such a dark time. I have a lot of memory loss, even still to this day. Every now and then it's been kind of coming back a little bit, just talking about it more, just in interviews, not, just to use it as a tool to help people go through what they're going through is really the only time I talk about it. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you imagine 17 years old living in a shelter with a baby?
So, sorry, I kind of stopped there. So 17, got pregnant. Yeah. So I was in a shelter for minors. And so it was either they were pregnant or already had kids. And so it was a shelter with all women that were addicted to drugs, just got out of rehab, was in an abusive home, was completely like homeless, living on the street. I was just there because my parents signed me off.
Scary.
I a problem child. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I just felt so like, what am I doing here? Like, and it was just, imagine this little girl not knowing the world, and all you know is your parents and your home, and you lose that, and it's like, you're not worthy enough, you're not good enough, you're undeserving, we don't love you. Like, all these things just started going through my head. And then also, I've noticed a lot of people would ask me what happened with the father of my child at the time. So I disappeared. It was the summer going into my senior year. I had no cell phone. Obviously, I had no car. So I didn't have any means of communication. And so in the state of California, when you're a minor and your parents sign you off, they still have legal rights over you. So I had no way to communicate with anyone because they didn't allow me to. So I could only speak to my parents at the time or my sister. Well, my sister took off as soon as she turned 18. She's like, I'm out of here because, our whole lives we've been sheltered. So, I understand why she did that. But I convinced her to come take me to the shelter to show up at the home of my son's father to tell him what happened, what I disappeared. And, obviously I'm having this baby and we should get married and do the family thing. And I showed up at his doorstep and I told him everything that was going on. And that's the moment that he basically said that he got another girl pregnant and they're getting married. So it didn't work out. So like after that, it was like, okay, my parents don't want me. The father of my child cheated on me, got another girl pregnant, and they're about to get married. Like I literally had nobody. And so, at the age of I turned 18. 4 days later, I had my son. And there's a requirement that after you have your child, you do have to go somewhere like a family member's home for like 2 weeks or something. Just, because you're going through the healing process and things like that. And just in case they need someone to like take you to the hospital or if there's any difficulties. I've actually never shared this with anybody actually. I went back to my parents' house for 2 weeks. I don't remember a thing except for just hiding in my room. Like I didn't want to speak to them. I was angry. I mean, you can only imagine, right? So then, my time was up and ended up back to another shelter, which was not for minors. And I was the baby. I was 18 years old. All the women in that shelter was like in their 30s, 40s. And they treated me like their little daughter. And they just like took me in. It was like the first time I ever felt like
love.
People care about me. I felt love, like started kind of seeing the light a little bit. I finished high school. I saved up $2,000, bought my first car. It was like this beat up green old Lexus. I was so proud of it. With a Toyota door, I found out later. No AC. I had to roll down the window like manually and no radio or anything, but I was so proud of it. I was in there for, I can't remember, probably about 8 months or so. And then it was at the time, let's see, I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go, but I ended up leaving the shelter, obviously, because it doesn't last forever. But I was also extremely prideful. I'm like, I'm tired of living here. Like, I'm not, it had rules and I had to follow a curfew and all the things. And I was just way too prideful. I don't like following rules, clearly. So I started, I moved in at the time with a high school friend. And it was a guy and his family. And so so he basically was like, you can move in with us. So I'm not living in the shelter with my son. And so I was like, okay. Again, I'm like, now I'm 19 at this point. So, I was like, okay. And then that kind of started turning into a relationship that was not healthy. And so then from that time, I've never talked about this. From that time, I moved in again with another high school friend that was a guy. And that was a really horrible relationship. It was very toxic. He introduced me to drugs. I started getting into drugs. I just recently told my son about this because I wanted to wait till he was older for me to share this part of my life. But I started getting involved into drugs, and I saw that I was becoming like my mom. And I was like, I cannot become like my mother. And I had to make a sacrifice, which was if I leave here, I literally have no place to go.
Right.
And that's when I did leave, and I knew it was the right thing. It started to become physically abusive too as well. So that was like the last straw for me, because that's something I just do not tolerate. Like, don't touch me. And I slept in the car with my son for 3 days.
Wow.
In the streets of Santa Ana, like hiding. And I did not have the guts to call my parents, because the last thing I wanted to hear from them was, I told you so. This is not the life we wanted you to have. And I wanted to prove to them and myself and, you know, to everyone that I could do this. Like, you know, everything's figure outable.
Such a common theme, by the way, for women that are in these unique situations where they don't feel like they have anyone, or they have these daddy issues. I mean, we just stumbled upon it. It's a very similar story though, but she didn't want to call her parents. Like, you know, this is why this message is important, Kayla, is there's so many girls out there right now that are about to make some terrible decisions, and they're so afraid of this, of reaching out to people. But I get, I get in your
human nature of it's so relatable.
Yeah, it's all relatable. I mean, her circumstance is different because her parents were tough, but that sentiment is felt in a lot of different people. Even if they have parents they can rely on, they still don't make this call because their parents are going to say that we were right. You're so afraid of that. It's weird how so many of the best stories I hear, if you get to some of these little nuances, there's so many similarities in sort of the bone structure of trauma, of all these past scar tissue moments. But it's one that I've heard so many times.
I think though, if they like, I don't regret anything. Like, I feel like that was meant for me to happen, for it to happen, for me to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so, even though what comes after this, you would think, well, what are you trying to figure it out? It was basically building calluses and tough skin and recognizing what the real world feels like, right? Which is harsh and dark and unfair. But that's what life is about, right? Life is unfair, and it's just about how you handle every situation. Right. So I convinced my aunt in Santa Ana to just give me a place to put my stuff, and then I can find another place to move into. So I moved in all my stuff. The next day I woke up, went downstairs, all my stuff was gone. And I found out later that my cousin's friends stole all my shit. And that was like all I had. And so it was, it was kind of like one thing after another. And I'm like, I'm trying to do my best here. But then from there, I just kind of started renting rooms from Craigslist. Back then it was like, you could get a cheap room in not the best areas for like $500 a month. So it was doable. I just owned a mattress, a few clothes and toys. Not really furniture. So it was easy for me to move.
And this whole time you have your baby, Jordan.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
It's really cool. I have a single mom story too. So like I always have a respect and a connection to single mothers. You know what I mean? I used to roll when I was a baby with my mom. We lived in weird ass places. I remember one time that I woke up freezing, and I had a mattress on the ground. And my mom used to always sleep on the couch. I don't even know this odd place we lived in. But I woke up freezing, and my mattress was soaking wet with water. And there was this really overweight lady next door. She was like 600 pounds. And apparently she had a water bread, and it busted, and it leaked through my wall. My mattress soaked up, and the mattress was soaking wet, like water everywhere, all over my room. And I have these vague memories of that. And I remember like going out, like a wet little baby would come and walking out, like, I don't know, 4 years old or whatever, 5 years old. My earliest memory actually might have been this. But weird little things like that happen. That's the single mom story, but it's Jordan, this testimony of Jordan now, just knowing some of where you're at now. It's fun now to hear you say this, because you're right. This is all money. Like, this is where it's at. Like, all this scar tissue is what makes you so powerful. This is the thing that is going to allow you to thrive at your highest and best use, is like really leaning into this. And there's a lot of people that don't ever figure out how to lean into their pain, you know what I mean, and turn it into purpose.
Well, I think a lot a lot of people I find, they're scared to face it and relive those moments, because in order for you to heal, you have to go through it. You have to feel it. You have to heal it. Right. So there were so many times where I felt like I had to relive those moments to just talk about it and get through it. And that's one of the things that most people fear, is having to, I don't want to think about it. They suppress the emotion. They suppress the memories. And, you know, I did that for so long, but I was full of hate. I was full of hate.
Yeah.
I went through this big phase for years where I hated men, and I'm just like, I thought I had like a big daddy issue, but come to find out I have a massive mother wound.
Yeah.
And, it was, and then I went through this phase of like, I don't need a man, the single mom, like I got this, I don't need it. Now it's completely changed, but I've done the work and the healing. But like I said, I feel like I've lived so many different lives, because it's to go back and think about that. It's like, wow, I did a whole 180. Like I'm a completely different person now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know there's a lot of pain and bumps in the road to when you started seeing real positive momentum in your life. You started maybe seeing the world differently. Where did that start to manufacture in your life? Like, how old are you? What does your reality look like when you start figuring out how to get some momentum to go in your life the right direction? Because it's easy to talk about momentum and how it can steer us the wrong direction when you're losing. But when does it start going right for you? Or is there something I'm missing in your story that's valuable to connect to before you even hit that point?
Yeah, I think it was when I met Lupe, my son's godmother. You know Tony. You've met Tony.
I love Tony.
Yeah, it's Lupe's nephew. So I think it was when they came into our lives is when I started kind of really seeing more hope. And Jordan I never know how old I was. I don't pay attention to that. It's always how old my son was. So he was about like 8-ish. So 9 years ago.
Wow.
So I was, oh my gosh, I'm 35. So I should probably do the math. So I was 26. So it was pretty dark through all the way up to that point of meeting them, and how they changed our lives was, I couldn't afford a babysitter at the time. I used to bring my son to the salon, and I used to hide him in the back. So I would work all day, take a late lunch, because everyone all went to lunch at one time, but one person had to stay on the floor just in case anyone walks in for a haircut, So I took that one slot. So after everyone came back from lunch, then I went to lunch, but that's when I went to pick up Jordan from school, and then I would bring him back and finish my work day. Well, fast forward, people started complaining that there was always a child in the salon, and he was running around and all the things. So I had no choice. I had to get a babysitter. Well, I was introduced to Lupe through another hairstylist, and long story short, she basically watched Jordan for a year straight with no pay, and that was a godsend.
Angel. Yeah,
and it was
hero. It
was like the moment I realized there's actually real people in this world that care, and it was like the first time I felt like real love, like you actually care about me, and us. And it was just, it was like that moment where I started kind of changing my perspective on people. Eric, you know, Tony, we only started getting close probably about 3 years ago. It took me so long just to get close to him.
Trust anyone.
I just stayed close with Lupe. That was it. Like, that's how long it would take me to get close to anyone or open up to anyone.
And who is Tony for the listener?
It's okay. The nephew of Lupe.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So she basically, they live together. They basically, it's such a long story, but people think that Tony's her son, but it's actually her nephew. But he might as well be her son because she takes care of him.
Yeah, and Tony kind of runs her social media world. One of her dear friends. They're always together. So
your process of coming out of the shell and actually trusting another human being it began with them.
It began with them. Yeah. And then to answer your question, so that kind of I started seeing the light. She was very God fearing, and she went to, she'd praise the Lord. She went to church, and I was like, okay, I love that about her. Obviously it brought positivity to me and my son's life, so I didn't mind it, but I never went to church with her. She started taking my son to church, and I loved it because he loved it, and that's all that mattered to me. But I didn't believe in him, and I was just like, and also I bartended, so I would come home at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was about to get up to go to church. I was too tired. So that's when I kind of started seeing the light. And then I got introduced to spirituality. And that's when things kind of started changing for me, because I'm like, wait, what's this? But this was not Christianity. This was New Age. I could talk to you guys for hours. There's so many moving parts to my story. It's crazy. There's so many different layers. And I started learning what frequencies were, law of attraction, chakras. I started learning all that stuff. And for me, it gave me something to believe in. It wasn't negative, and I'm not saying anything bad about people that believe in New Age, but it could be used for good or bad. Obviously, I was using it to grow positively. And so it kind of just opened up this new world for me. And that's when it introduced me, and I got involved into personal development. And then from there, it was just like, oh my gosh, unlearning everything I've ever known my whole life, facing everything I've ever experienced and known and seen, learning to forgive not only others, but to forgive myself. It was just a whole process. And I'm still learning and growing and getting better every single day, but that's kind of just where it all started happening for me.
Yeah, personal development and God, that's a powerful combination of bringing to your life. No matter who you are, where you're at, that'll take you far places.
Have spiritual meaning in your life.
Yeah. It's funny, most people in your position, that if they don't stumble upon these things, what is it? What is life for them? And that's hard, man. You look around the masses, you look around the world, actually, where there's poverty, where there's so much pain in the world. You know what I mean? There's so many people that don't figure out the rules to the game, how to play life, how to win, how to find fulfillment, happiness, joy. And then there's some people that have nothing, and somehow they're happy as hell. You go to a third world country, every child's smiling so big, they don't have shoes. But why they all seem so happy? Been to an African country. I'm going to Africa next week. You know what I'm saying? Every place I've been, I've always admired things about humanity, and then and kind of picked what I like, picked what I don't, trying to figure out how to fit it into my life. But there's a lot to be said for this subject. But, figuring out how to be someone that has self-worth, just that alone is a powerful thing to stumble upon. I don't think a lot of people ever get there, that are always trapped in their circumstances. They never find a way to find their power, find their voice, find, what their purpose on earth is. And that to me is so sad. That's why I love the Kayla story, is because Kayla exposes so much light. She exposes a lot of people along this way too, that sort of keep people trapped. There's a lot of predators out there. I'm sure her story is filled with people that tried to pull her down, tried to trap her, tried to suck her into these dark places, all these deals with the devil, if you will. And for Kayla to finally find this area of life, what a gift, right? So this is where the story starts to get good, obviously. The Kayla we know today, it's this beautiful girl on stages that's dominating, this powerful force, this bright voice, this TV figure that's, obviously slaying in life. You don't just get there. At some point, you got to start making some decisions, Kayla, on really what you're going to do with your life. How are you going to, what is your craft? What are you going to sink your teeth into? So how did real estate was there something before real estate in this part of the story that we shouldn't gloss over, or what is the connection to real estate? Because that's what most people that don't know you, that know you, would say that you are. Especially since millions of eyeballs are now seeing you on TV. How do we get there?
So I was in the beauty industry for 10 years. So I had always had 2 or 3 jobs at one point. The good thing about being such a young mom, I had the energy. I would work all day, sleep for 2 hours just to go work at night. So it was doable. So I try to go do the college thing wasn't my thing. I've always had had a learning disability, and it was always tough for me. I never had the best grades or anything. But I went to beauty school, and that's where I was like, okay, I could totally do this. And I've always loved fashion and makeup and hair. I mean, I was a girl, girly girl. So I did that, and then slowly but surely just kind of started building my book of business, and I started learning what entrepreneurship was and running a business and numbers and all that. So I did cosmetology, and I did in salon and also freelance. So I was constantly all over the place. As soon as I turned 21, I started working in nightclubs. So I've always had a night job, and I did that for a solid 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I got into cosmetology. Then I got into barbering because I realized I was not good at women's hair. So I got into men's hair, and I realized, oh, I have a talent. I love to like paint and draw and stuff. So I have like a really good eye for detail. And doing phase on guys' hair, it's very much molding, and it's different than women's hair. It's very different. And I loved it. It was very therapeutic for me. But I started realizing that, you know, I'm getting close to 30, and I don't see myself cutting hair at 45, 50, 60, you know, like, is this it? Like, this cannot be it. So I had a very high-end clientele. I ended in a salon suite in Newport Beach, and then right on P Stage, next to the water. So I had a very good high-end clientele, and they kind of started introducing me to the luxury world, which I've never seen or experienced ever. And I'm just like, what is this? I started just going to, people that owned like yachts and really honing into, because I lived in Orange County my whole life, but I've only seen one side. I've seen the dark, dirty, struggling, being on food stamps, WIC side, you're on Section 8 housing. That's the side of Orange County I saw. I didn't know what this beautiful, luxurious life was with mansions and yachts and eating on the water. Like, what is that? I'd never done that. I never grew up around that, so I started getting exposed to that world, which I think is an important lesson to hear, because you won't know. You have to be exposed to other things in order to grow, right? If you stay in this little fishbowl, you can only get so big, right? You can only get so far. And so you have to, that's why, like, for example, my son, he doesn't know what he wants to do, because he's 17 and he's getting to that age. And I tell him, do it all, try it all, go travel. Do, if you wanted your fashion line, start your own clothing fashion line. You want to get into real estate too, do that. Do it all, just do it all at once if you can, just experience it. And that's what's so important. I wouldn't have been able to figure that out if I wasn't exposed to that world. So sorry I went on a tangent, but
no, it's good.
It's a great tangent. Yeah.
No, it's good. Yeah. Exposure is important.
Exposure is huge. I mean, you don't know what is, what's that word? I'm drawing a blank. You don't know what is possible, right? That's what I was telling Eric the other day, and he also had mentioned it recently on social media. Proximity is power. Proximity is everything. It's who you're surrounded by. It's the lifestyles that they're living. Go find someone that is living the life you want and go hang out with them. Go see what they're doing, right? I wouldn't have known about this world if I wasn't surrounded by it, right? So I started opening my eyes to greater and better things. Sure. And that's when I started realizing I'm meant for way more than just cutting hair. Sure. Like, wow. What am I doing? So the majority of my clientele were very well off. A lot of them invested into real estate, and they would all there was a pattern. They all told me, you should be a real estate agent. I'm like, okay, yeah, right. Like, I don't even have a laptop. I don't even know how to use Gmail. Like, I don't know anything. I just know how to use my hands, cut hair, and bartend and make drinks. Like, I had no education. So I got my license for fun with my girlfriend. We're like, let's do it together. And it just, one thing led to another. I passed it the first time, which I found out later that doctors have taken it. They can't pass it. So I was like, okay, there's something here. And then I got connected with someone, and then I became, I took a job to assist a top producer in San Clemente. And that's kind of where it all started. And I started seeing money I've never seen before. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I should, this is it. This is where I should go. So I started letting go slowly but surely. It was very bittersweet. I started letting go of some clientele, hair clientele, and I was still bartending. So when I was assisting in real estate, I was still cutting hair and I was still bartending. So for everyone that's listening to this, if you're new and getting into real estate, you're going to have to get maybe another job or two, because you're not going to make money for the first couple of years. That's the name of the game. It's not for everyone. That's just the truth. So I started learning from there. I was having 12-hour days. It was really hard. You know, I had mental breakdowns. I was questioning every single day if I'm even supposed to be doing this, you know, but I just, the one thing I've always had is just keep going, keep pushing harder, you know, and I just kept going and slowly started getting rid of clientele. Was an assistant for almost a year, and I got to a point, because they threw me in the deep end. Like, there was no thinking about it. It was, you do it, and I did it all.
What a blessing!
And I learned very quickly, and I basically told them, you know, I'm done being an assistant. I want to be an agent on the team. And long story short, how that happened, I eventually became an agent. And I was killing it. I was closing 1 to 2 deals a month, which was not the best on the team, but it was pretty dang good. You know, I was very proud of myself. And 6 months into that, that's when Netflix reached out to me randomly out of the blue on Instagram. And I thought it was fake, but come to find out it was very real. Started entertaining that. At first I said no, because I'm very, very extremely loyal. And, you know, that team took me in, and they didn't have to. And I was brand new and I didn't know anything. And, you know, so, but things started happening at that old brokerage that it was time for me to go. So I started entertaining it. It was during COVID, so it was delayed a lot. And yeah, then I got casted, and now I'm here today, which is still unbelievable to me, to be quite honest. It's opened a lot of doors. I'm thankful for it. Absolutely. But it's just like, I forget I'm on a show.
Yeah.
A lot.
I know. I hang out with you now. I'm like, it's not even a thing really. But at the end of the day, it's like you have all these eyeballs on you. There's like, you know, and this is just kind of getting started. Like, it was funny when I first started hanging out with Kayla, I was like, oh, there's so much money in you. Like, I just see so much value, like crazy value, insane value. I've seen her on stage now, and like I know the direction she's headed. I know that all the shit she's about to break, which is gonna be fun to watch. I'm such a fan of her, but it's not necessarily the Kayla that I saw on TV before I knew her. Do you know what I mean? That's not really the real her. It's like, it's not really represented, but there is a lot of drama. So of course I had all the questions. I'm sure our audience is gonna have the questions, but you know, she's getting into this world now. You know, so the Oppenheimer Group, obviously these guys are trying to pull you away from that other brokerage. The Jason, or what's the other guy's name? The twin, Brett. So are these guys, first of all, are these guys the real deal? I want to say, is this all real? My big question that I had when I met you, is this all real? Is this all staged? What is this?
Yeah, that's the number one question we get. Yes, it is very real. Very, very real. Jason and Brett, I will say this, they really, truly, in real life, care about us. They do. I mean, Jason has helped me so much because of that transition from my old brokerage to the new brokerage. Amazing. I sacrificed a lot, you know, and I was getting pretty much, my old brokerage was paying for a lead generator. All I had to do was close, and I'm a closer. So that was no problem. Going into the Oppenheim Group, Jason doesn't get us leads, you know, we're on our own. So it was basically me starting all over again. So imagine leaving hair, getting into real estate, you're starting a whole career over. I just hit 30. I'm like, what am I doing? If I'm going to do this, I have to go all in. Right. And then you leave that, which is consistent income. I just moved into a very luxurious apartment that I could not afford because I'm crazy. I'm the type of person that will push myself up against a wall to a point where I have to make it work because that's just who I am.
I like that.
And I moved from that to starting over again because I didn't have a lead generator. I had to start all over. So it was risky and it was scary. And Jason helped me through that. And he's done things that people don't know about that he's really helped me get on my feet. And so I'm forever thankful for that.
That's
so
cool.
To answer your question, yes, Jason and Brett are the real deal. And
That's
they
cool.
truly do take care of us and they truly care. So
yeah. You're not the first person that deals with them that's told me that. So it's a cool validation that these guys that are kind of, the muscle behind the scenes, promoting all this stuff really are good people that really give a shit, about, because you see so much of the drama. Then I think it's natural, the whole Housewives of Beverly Hills thing that just became this phenomenal craze in the marketplace of opulence, wealth, luxury brands, like high living, like, that translates into dollars, real dollars. There's real value in how the market perceives that. And there's big money in all this at the end of the day. But to kind of hear it from your perspective, because you're a real one, like I know you're such a real one, and sort of your outlook on it is super interesting, trying to connect all the dots, just because it is. The psychology of all this to me is intriguing. Influence and fame, and I mean, you know what I mean? Living at the highest levels, like you are now dancing with the best in class in the world. You're toe to toe with them in some of the most expensive markets on planet Earth. It's pretty impressive.
For someone, what has been revealed to you that only someone who didn't live in those atmospheres, who in a very short time period is now interacting at that level? Like, what are some things that you've gleaned from that?
Well, I wouldn't say short amount of time. I think people see me on this show and they think, oh my gosh, they don't realize the 16 years that I've struggled,
the work,
15 years that I struggled before all of this that people see now. Yeah. It was many years of struggling and being broke and just trying to figure it out, and healing from it all at the same time, and then, but I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure.
I think it's more, not by the short time. I mean, obviously you've been working hard tirelessly for years, but I mean, to go from what Eric was pointing out, like it's one thing to work in a salon, then all of a sudden to have, you're in a space of your social network, your influence, your clientele, even that courageous leap to real estate and selling high-end real estate at any level. But what have you most, I don't know, seeing under the hood of TV, and what's one of the biggest discoveries you've made about yourself or life? Or
oh my goodness.
I will add this to Matt's point. The rules are so different when you start getting into how wealth is created, where money's at. They're so different than the people that are trading their time for money. When now you're starting to see, you started getting around the high net worth clientele, you see the rules are completely different. These people play by a whole different set of rules. It's rigged. Yeah. The system's rigged. It's unfair. People are getting, middle class getting fucked. Poverty people, they're just being held down almost on purpose. Like, that's my perspective of what I've seen since I've entered that arena. But it'd be cool to hear your perspective. You're around all the money now. You're around all the glitz, the glamour. You know what I mean? Like, what's under the hood there?
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Wow. I've never been asked that question before. This is good. There's a very good side to it, but then there's a very dark side to it. And it's incredible. You would think that people that have more would have it all figured out, but come to find out that's not the case. Right. It's like,
that's good.
They're still figuring it out, but if anything, their issues are even bigger and
that.
Darker in a sense. And it's like, whoa, you would think, just looking from the outside in, that they would be happier, but they're just not. If anything, it's like, I've seen more darkness on this side of money versus not.
Yeah.
And it's thank God. See, everything that has happened in my life happened just in the order that it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Meaning, where I'm at today, if I received these opportunities even 5 years ago,
Yeah.
I would have probably. I'm sorry.
It's like you're spiritually equipped to handle it now, in a way.
Yes,
for sure.
So, and I stay grounded, and I stay, because I know where I came from, and I've done the work, so it doesn't change me.
Yeah.
And people assume that it would, because I get that question a lot, like, oh, like, how does it feel to be famous? I hate that word. How does it feel to be a celebrity? I hate that word too, because it's like I'm just Kayla. Like, I'm just working. I'm providing. I'm, now I'm on a bigger platform so I can reach more people. That's the only way that I look at it. It's just a platform for me to touch and reach more people. To change lives. I've always cared about people since obviously there was a time in my life where I was scared and I had a guard up, but that's just because I was hurt. But once I broke through that barrier, it was like, I just want to love and help everybody. It's like I became over loving. Yeah,
and I'll testify to that. The you is as solid as they come, is as ground as a human comes. I think that you start getting into this world of $100 million listings, like literally. I mean, that's the first listing on that show, this famous house in Laguna Beach. The point is that a lot of the industry promotes drama. They promote a lot of toxic shit that beneath the core of it all is kind of sickening, and they promote it. They try to push that narrative. I don't know if you felt that. And then when I get around you, I get a whole different sense of the things I actually saw on the show as a consumer, sort of looking back and saying like, damn, like who could operate like this? Like all this drama, all the motherfucking time, these crazy ass women, but you're not, like, you're about as sane as a human as they come. And I'm gonna be a testifier to that point. How hard is it to be able to promote that side of you, the side of you that loves, forgives, the side of you that makes people better? Like, that's all that I see. Like, is there even room for that on TV, or do they not value that at all? But that's that's kind of the place that I was sensing is like, hey, do more of that, Kayla. Can you do more of that?
No, I do. I mean, even last, I don't know if you saw season 2, but I counted 17 scenes I was in that they cut out.
See, there you go.
17 scenes, and it was not drama. And there it goes.
Yeah, right.
I had a huge luxurious event that I threw that was stunning, and I put so much time and effort and money into it, and they completely cut the whole thing out because there was no drama. And I told them specifically I didn't want drama because this is very special to me. I have everyone that I care about there. I have clientele that was there, and I cannot have anything go wrong, right? Yeah. And they didn't even use that. They took it completely out. Yeah. So it's not, I think people watch this show thinking it's about real estate. It's not. It's about drama. Because people love watching shows, apparently, that makes them feel better about their own lives.
Interesting. Such an interesting point.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's, and I've said this before. I came to God last summer, and I think that I was so hard-headed and stubborn for so long that God literally said, okay, Kayla, I'm going to take you and put you on a TV screen, and I'm going to show you what you're doing and how you're acting and and I literally had to see myself on TV and look at myself and think, who the hell is that?
Oh my God.
That is not the Kayla Cardona that I know.
Yeah.
That has gone through everything she's gone through. Half of the time I'm blacked out drunk. And I'm just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And so from there, and then the narrative that came out of that was so inaccurate. And that's when I was like, I need to take control of my own narrative. Wow. I need to tell my story because they're not going to do it for me, nor am I going to rely on them to do so. Nope. I brought back my podcast. That's when I started, just expressing myself and being vulnerable with people, connecting with people, and doing it from my heart, not from, let me prove to you. It was coming from my heart. And then I started getting rid of the toxicity. Then I started bringing in, it was making space to bring in the right type of people, started speaking more on stages, connecting with the right people. You and I, Eric, got connected. That was a godsend. It's just like, now we're here. So it's just like,
it's all part of the journey.
Yeah, it's all part of the journey. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was just, I think these opportunities came to me because God said, you're going to do this. But first you have to see, you still got work to do.
Yeah.
And look what you're doing. So
Yeah.
I switched it very quickly because I'm like, I'm not going to waste time.
Yeah.
So, now I'm still doing real estate. I'm mentoring my assistant right now. She just got her license. And, we just, right before this call, we set up some appointments for tomorrow. We have a few listings coming up I'm really excited about, but I'm also now certified life coach. And I'm doing that. I have my breakthrough program. We have bi-weekly calls. And I'm in this group chat every single day. And I just had one of my clients, I hate to say clients, students, this past weekend, she basically was telling me she had to pick up some Uber shifts to cover for the next month payment for my breakthrough program. And it's like, you're doing it. You're doing the things.
Yeah.
You're investing into yourself. You're making it happen. And that's what just... That's like what I'm here for. That's what it's all about. Just helping people break through and bettering themselves, becoming the best versions of themselves. And, that's everything that I got going on. I have so much more, but my story isn't like, it's so many moving parts to it, but that's why I want to write a book and have a Hollywood film on it, because it's like a pursuit of happiness kind of thing where there's like all these moments that you're just like, when does it end? And then I know I just took that to a whole different route. Sorry.
That's gold.
Yeah.
That's so gold.
But particularly this last year or so of your life, like a real deep inner pivot.
Yeah.
It compounds. Like, it's funny is like, you're right. You have 15 years of, for many people may see like not a lot of non-movement in some cases, but that's where all the money's happening. That's preparing you to take advantage of that one opportunity that you can say yes to. And then you take advantage of a unique opportunity, again, I'm just speeding up the timeline here for the sake of this conversation, but the compounding effects of that one opportunity, and within 1 year, this insane reflection, like, oh my God, who is that? Like, I didn't kill myself my whole life to get here, invest everything I have to be in this moment to only look like that. Like, these are powerful reflections. And sometimes you need the light to expose your own self to your own sort of downsides. Like, the camera's done a lot for me. It's held me, Eric Rock, personally, my part of the story from my journey. The camera and the light has held me insanely accountable to like a higher standard of how I like want to operate now for the rest of my life.
It's a gift that you got to like objectively witness yourself and like framed out before you.
I'm sure you cringed. Like, I mean, I what I mean? We all do when we look at ourselves. I don't
watch my show. I watch it once just to see what these bitches are saying behind my back. But that's it. Like, I won't watch it again. I cringe so much. And even when season 3 comes out, which I'm actually excited, I think if they edit it correctly, I'll look good. But I'll even cringe to that because that was before Christ. And I was dropping all these F-bombs and I'm not too proud.
So so talk about this. So this is cool. God enters the picture. Actually, this is relatively recently. Seems like you're full in on this beyond like the spiritual, I think, setup, which is valuable as hell. But now you're really all in on this. And this is sort of what I think I can tell you're eager to make the next season, or whatever the season of your life, the season of the show, the next chapter of your life, all the things you're about to do, to make this a dominating part of the presence and the power of you, along with your story and everything you've been through. You couldn't get it in the last season because the full acceptance of it happened after that season had already been shot. That'll air next year, right?
No, I think it's going to air
or this year.
March or April.
Oh, it's coming soon.
Oh, dang. Yeah. Oh,
we're already in February.
Holy cow.
So for you to shot that season that was shot last year, but it's going to air this year. Okay. I got it. I was off a little bit, but if God could have been part of your mission and your story, then as you film that, I do think that you project different energies, maybe a different tonality, maybe a little more forgiveness here, maybe a little more grace here. You're not drinking anymore. Like, I know so many things about you that people don't, so I can slip all this shit in. But I love who you've become. And now I'm a huge fan of you. And what's cool is I see you on stages now and you're building like this version of you that's such a dominating force. That Kayla on the show, selling the OC is different than the Kayla of last season. That Kayla is way different than the one before that. So it's going to be cool to see how you evolve and how God sort of plays a role and how you communicate to the world. Even slight differences tell big story differences. Just subtle ways that you translate your words and translate your energy, even when there's conflict or even when there's some bitch trying to take you down. Like how you handle that now, I guarantee is going to be different because God's in your life. Like this is so fun. So maybe elaborate on how God is going to, be transferred into the future versions of Kayla that's still selling $100 million homes, still around the wealthiest people in the world, but is now getting them to think differently about their life. Like,
or what's different. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I go toe to toe with any motherfucker. I don't care how rich you are, but it's because I know who I am. I know God's in my heart and I know I'm impacting the world. I know who the fuck I am that allows me to talk like this, be this way, not give a fuck what you think. That's real power. I don't give a shit, but it's always from this place of like, I'm going to die on this sword. I'm so solid of who I am. My standards are so fucking high. I'm going to bleed for what's right at all times. Like, do you feel all that? Like, that's what I feel in you now. You don't have to use the cuss words, but it's how I choose to do it. So how is it for you?
No, I love that. And yes, I'm right there with you. I feel the same exact way. But I will say this. Some people are just not meant to evolve so that you need to, meaning there's just some people that are lost causes, and there's some people on my cast that are just lost causes, and I don't think anything I do or say would ever help them.
You're never going to win them over.
Never, ever.
Yeah,
and that's just
true.
Something I have to accept because I still have this empathetic side of me that is like, I could help them. If there's anyone I could help them, it's me. Like, I'm just like, but no, I have to continue to remind myself some of these people really, really fucked me over. Excuse my language. Yeah. They really did. And I cannot be the one thinking that I could save anybody. And so to answer your question, yeah, I will continue to be me. I will always be my authentic self. Will they air me because I'm so maybe a different? I don't know, because they loved that I was the spicy Latina. They like whenever there would be any sort of conflict, they're like, spicier, Kayla, more attitude. And I'm like, I don't really, I don't feel that. It's like, I don't want to, and sometimes I would just do it just to do it. Cause you do feel that pressure sometimes. And I'm not quite sure if I'll even get any airtime, but I will say this. I won't tolerate certain things. Just because I found God doesn't mean I'm going to tolerate certain things. I'm still going to say something. So I'm going to make that real clear. I'm still going to speak up and say what I need to say, maybe in a different way. The deliverance will be different.
Maybe you could pray for him.
Did you have
I've been.
No. In the moment of heat, maybe you could piss them so off by saying, I'll pray for you. That's drama.
Bless your heart.
And bless your little heart. Like, I wish you well, baby. Like, I don't know. I get your point though. I get the sentiment. It is one of these dichotomies. It's a unique, because you want to keep the momentum going. You want to get the airtime. You're building a brand. Influence is important, but maybe there's a way to do it where you become sticky. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I love to chat with you on this. Off air, we'll chat. But I think there's a way to do you and like put salt in a wound in a way that is very healthy for you.
Oh, trust me.
No
I can
alcohol,
totally
though.
Eric.
No alcohol.
We'll talk about it, but
I got you.
absolutely.
I got you.
Was there a definitive moment or person when this last year where your faith took off? Or
Yeah. Good question.
I was meditating and I had an encounter with God, but I didn't know it was him. I thought it was me. So New Age, for people, I don't know if you know what that is, but New Age is where you basically worship yourself. That sounds horrible.
I get
but
it.
Yeah, but like you're the creator of your reality. You're the one that attracts everything, right? Law of attraction, all the things. So I thought I was the creator. I thought I was, I hate to say this, I thought I was God, And so I was into like the crystal stuff. And if I wanted to attract abundance, I had like a certain crystal that I would wear, like all those stuff. And it's so crazy to talk about it now because I'm full Christian now. And I even had a deliverance. We don't have to go there. So it was an encounter with God. And then it wasn't until I had a deliverance. I guess I do need to go there to explain what that is. Do you guys know what deliverance is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Explain.
It's pretty deep. It's basically an exorcism. And I have an episode on my podcast explaining what that is and my experience of what happened. But it was a lot of demons. I don't know if you guys want to go there.
No, you can. Well, it's up to you.
Yeah, well, I don't mind.
Yeah.
I just spoke about it only twice, so that's why it's still something very endearing and vulnerable for me to speak about, because it's such a personal experience that it was a moment that I had with God that brought me to Him. And so if anyone tries to talk to me about that, I'm like very protective about it.
Sure.
So I was delivered. It was a 3-hour session, and so basically it's an exorcism. They pull out, you have to see a certain someone that is filled with the Holy Spirit in order to do the deliverance. Otherwise, I don't know what to tell you, because if they're not filled with the Holy Spirit and they're filled with something else, like, I don't want to be responsible for that. So make sure you guys, if whoever's listening to this, if you're just interested in deliverance, just message me on Instagram. I can help you with that. But it's very important that you go to someone that is filled with the Holy Spirit. So they basically talk about all your deepest, darkest skeletons in the closet. You tell them everything. And so kind of work through that for an hour and a half. And then the second hour and a half is basically you fill the room with angels, and you're protected by God, and it's pulling demons outside of you. And to give you an example, the biggest demon that was inside of me was the spirit of rejection. And that kind of, it makes sense if you think about it, because, even all the way back to
your youth. Yeah.
My childhood, right? My childhood, and not being good enough and having to perform to earn love. And, and then into being sent away from my own home, my parents dropping me off. I'm not good enough. I was rejected. I have abandonment issues. I have dad and mom issues. Like, it just, that was the biggest one. And it was such a crazy experience, because my body was being thrown. I was being thrown, but it didn't hurt. That's the thing, because demons do not have the authority to hurt us. And I was protected, and I was safe. I wasn't scared. I felt like God was there with me. And so I just felt my body was starting to feel very numb, like my arms were going numb, and I couldn't move. I was sweating. And I just remember my body just being thrown like this, and I just kept crying and screaming. But again, it was like something was being ejected out of me. It didn't hurt. I wasn't afraid, but I was crying everything. And then I just remember my head throwing back, and I was just screaming. It was an incredible experience. And then after she basically delivers you, pulls the demons out, then she fills you in with the Holy Spirit. And I swear I walked out of that place glowing. I was like, oh my God. It was 10 years of therapy in 3-hour session. So that's when literally I got in my car and everything started hitting me. And I was like, oh my God, that moment was an encounter with God. He showed me my future. Yeah. He showed me an image of me and my husband, and we were in our mansion with an ocean view. And I remember seeing a little girl, another child, and him holding our child. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it was so real. It's like I was there. And then there was a second message from him saying, if you do not walk with me, this is not going to happen. And I just started crying. And I'm getting emotional right now just thinking about it. But it was very powerful. And that's the moment that I told God, I surrender. Here, take it all. I'm tired of doing it on my own anyways, because I've been doing it on my own for so long. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
It's very powerful, Kayla. Wow.
It's
What a gift. Truly.
it's like a whole dimension. Well, it's like politics. People don't like to get into because it's such an it's ultra personal, and like it's your own subjective real experience. It's not even debatable, but it's a real dimension. It's
Yeah.
and I've heard it phrased like the new age spiritual circus, like of course you're innocent child, and there is like everything, there's truth in that, but it's like missing a context or missing this, or like you said, like a worship of self. And then the older I get, the more Christ is everything to me. Like, and I've explored so many things, but I just keep coming home to anyway. That's beautiful. I love if you don't walk with me or don't trust me. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for having the courage to share that. It's an ultra private thing, but you have a glow about you. I didn't know you before today's show or anything, so I haven't juxtaposed your aura or your vibe or anything from your past, but it's clear that there's a beautiful glow about you. And
and somehow I think that all those experiences paired with that singular experience is what's created all this freedom in you. This freedom to go out and fully be who you're meant to be, and to expose yourself to the world and let impact be that dominating force. It's kind of cool, the collection of stories that got you to that point. And now I feel like you're walking free. And you can do that with like sort of impact and fulfillment that comes with great impact and real success. Like at the end of the day, like build a brand, build a business, like build your dreams.
But you're like an instrument of something greater.
Yeah,
now.
that's why. Yeah, you're going to naturally live a rare life because you bring so much value to the world. That's one of the byproducts of people that bring insane value to the world, is they get to live these rare one-on-one lives. They get to tap into all the, freedoms that exist in the world that we live in. But again, like what I like about it is you're always humbled from your beginnings. You never forget where you're from. And I always try to remember, no matter how far I get in life, I remember there's some child out there that's suffering. There's someone being raped right now. There's a woman that's being beat to death. There's murder happening. There's so much evil in the world. And somehow, like, I will connect death and I will connect pain, other people's pain paired with my own pain, to every win I have. And it's what separates me from so many people that don't systematize these types of thoughts into their life. I'll put it as a morning reminder. I'm going to die soon. My coffin's right there. It's not that far away. And again, it allows me to walk with a different vibrant energy, a different frequency that I'm on. And again, I always try somehow connecting now my work to God, without like in a religious context. That's brought me closer than all the years of Catholic school that I got pounded down my head. You know what I mean? Someone telling me I need to be religious, as opposed to me exploring sort of the boundaries of my own actions and my own life. But somehow I feel like when I hear your story, like you empower, like I can just feel how many people you empower through your own story. You empower me listening to you. And it'll be cool to be a fan and a friend of yours along the way, and to continue to watch you impact and dominate. Yeah.
Thank you.
What a journey.
The feeling is pretty incredible, because now it's like, now that I have that experience, and Matt, thank you for saying that, as far as like I have this glow, it's like God really softened my heart, because it was hard for so long.
Yeah. That's good.
And now it's like having this. Now it's like I want to bring as much light as I can to everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I want you to experience what I've experienced. And I really believe that, because everyone's in this rat race of, trying to live this life and working and doing all the things that we do, even being a mother's a job, and being a parent in general. It's like, we got to remember and remind ourselves why we're all here. And at the end of the day, I really, truly believe that we're all here to heal and help each other and get closer to God. And just bring the light and be the light for everyone. And I've noticed, especially being in the reality TV world, there's not a lot of that.
No.
And if I could be the one to bring that.
Yeah.
What?
I said that's where you can separate. You can be the one person that still entertains, still brings the fire, Latina heat, but you carry a different purpose with you, and that purpose somehow radiates out of you, and somehow the camera can't not capture it. Like, there's a way to do this, I promise you.
If by some grace the producers,
we're gonna have a conversation there on the side.
Eric said,
sometimes I do question. It's like, because here's the thing. You're being authentic, real to yourself, but there's parts to be played in order to have a show.
100%.
So it's like,
yeah.
Well, yeah,
we got to play the game a little bit.
Yeah,
little game plan.
Yeah, it's different than it's different than a traditional artistic film where you could separate and be like, but you have the blending. It's like, well, it's the blending of your own life and relationships with the show.
And you know what, Kayla, also this opportunity may lead you to many others, and I'm sure it will. This will be a gateway to other great things where you can fully express yourself and not feel like you're going to get cut out every time, because I think impact, you get 1 million people around the couch, getting them to ponder one little thought. That's something you slipped in, something you very delicately landed that had more impact than all the drama. I just feel like there's ways to creatively do it where you can express yourself, be yourself, but you don't have to engage in the way they want you to, but you can still engage.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Will tell.
This will be fun. I don't know. It's just you're a new person every year. You're constantly outgrowing your old self. You're murdering the old Kayla on such a regular basis now. It'll be cool to see how you formulate this new version as you continue to step in the light.
It would actually be a cool creative tension if the producers were overt about it and allowed you to bring in your true self and reveal it in the context of the show without abusing your faith. You don't want to muck around in that.
It's hard because you got to be in a world kind of playing the game toe to toe with a bunch of other people that are hogging the light. They want it. And again, there's a lot of snakes in the grass. There's a lot of manipulation happening. It's all part of the process, but it still is an opportunity. And somehow it still exposes you to fulfill your greatest mission in life, which is to reach as many people, particularly women, I think, around the world that, don't have any hope right now. They have no hope. And somehow your impact, even in this most subtle fashion, can play to your bigger mission. And you should be a steward of those opportunities and those assets that you have, because it's all money now. But it's funny, when you keep evolving like this, it's like the old Kayla's never coming back. Once she's gone, she's gone.
Not after a deliverance.
She's on a mission, baby. No way. This is gonna keep unfolding in such a cool way. So awesome.
But I think it was meant to happen this way. I think people were meant to see the growth.
For sure.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, that is
Great point.
the beauty of it, and to see the progress and going from season 1 Kayla to however many seasons Kayla and to show the change and that it's okay.
That's powerful too. Yeah, you're right. No, that's beautiful.
You're right. That's the hook. The human nature hook where it's so relatable and
yeah. All of us have so many old versions we weren't proud of or we're embarrassed of or oh, why'd I say that? I do this all the time. Trust me. Eric rocked 3 weeks ago. Oh, that motherfucker.
You remind me of I've been wanting to, I don't know if is there a film out? I don't know if it's been released yet. Russell Crowe playing an exorcist. Has that been out yet, or is that out? Did you guys hear about this?
Oh, I don't watch scary movies. Count me out.
Yeah. Anyway, he's playing a real life priest. Is
it based on a true story?
It's all true story.
Wow.
I like so when you were saying deliverance, the Catholic Church, that there's different frames, but it's a real reality, So
I think when people think of exorcist, you think of contorted.
No, it's supposed to be. I heard a whole interview. It caught my ear, a 90-minute interview about Russell Crowe talking about the priest he was playing, most ordinary man, and it's like a spiritual education, in the name of Jesus Christ, get thee hence. It's a whole reality I know very little or knew much less about. Anyway, you're commenting on your experience made me think, when is that Russell Crowe movie coming out? But it's not out yet.
This is a cool conversation.
When you think of exorcism, you'll think of me.
Yeah. Now I have Russell Crowe and I have
Kayla Cardona.
Kayla, and then the weird. No. I'm somewhat familiar with what you talked about actually in recent years, but it's beautiful, Kayla. God bless.
Thank you for coming on the show, Kayla. You're amazing. Your gifts. It's so cool to call you a friend. Where can we send our audience to check you out, to listen to your podcast, to maybe invest with you, to buy homes from you? Where?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I'm most active on my Instagram, which is MS Kayla Cardona. My website, it should be released in the next week or two, kaylacardona.com. Just send me a DM on Instagram for selling homes. I'm pretty good at it. I have a social media manager that helps me. go through my DMs. But and then Pain to Power is my podcast name, which Eric, you will be my guest coming soon, which I'm so excited.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it'll be nice to like
In
because
Newport
I've
Beach on the ocean.
right on the ocean, Newport Beach, in the epitome
yeah.
of OC, and I'm so thankful for it. It's crazy. But I'm excited for our episode because I'm kind of, I've been doing a lot of interviews lately and I'm like, I'm so tired of talking about myself. Can we?
Yeah, you want to flip the seat. You're like, yeah.
I know, right? Good for you.
I don't mind it, but it's just like, there's so many other
lanes of interest. Yeah. You're coaching people now and everything. Kayla, really great to meet you. I could see Eric was like, wait till you meet this woman. He's been, I've been hearing about you as he's wintering in Laguna Beach. So, but he was so excited to meet you, and
wintering.
I'm really glad to connect with you today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you soon. You're amazing. So I think we got it all. Colton, you need her to render? Do you need?
Yeah. So once we hang up,
Hold
Can
tight.
you do an IG little thing of us?
Let's do
a video.
I'll do a quick IG video, and then let's also while you're doing the outro.
Yeah, leave Riverside open because it has to finish uploading, Kayla. So.
Gotcha.
Okay.
It's pouring rain over here, Eric. What is the weather like over there?
Not bad. It's very mild, and it's
mild
actually
winter.
probably better in Coeur d'Alene right now than it down is in Laguna or Newport. Actually, I heard it's raining like crazy.
Oh, everyone's freaking out. They're like, "Oh my God, we're not okay. Come save us."
They don't know how to drive in California when it rains a little bit. Everyone panics. They go like 5 miles an hour. It's just in Idaho is no big deal.
No big deal.
No one cares.
Yeah. Same.
Okay, hey, thank you guys for joining me on a mission. Kayla Cardona, what an episode. This can be fun to expose her to the world, our world at least, our audience, but it'll be cool to watch her continue to grow and pursue her greatest passions and her highest and best use, which is an evolutionary thing. It never ends.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining. Go like, share, subscribe, spread the message, spread the word, and go slay your dragons, you guys. Cheers.
Yeah, God bless.
Thank you.
I'm a man.